All right, season 3, episode 4. I am here with Linda Woodhead from Mocha Group. Linda, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to have a chat with you.
I know we have been trying to tee this up for so long, so it's like finally we've managed to do it.
Exactly.
I know, I love it. All right, so as we normally start off every podcast with our little icebreaker, Linda, if you can let us know your 5 all-time top 5 favorite songs, if you can narrow that down.
Okay, so it's a tough one, this one, because I think every decade I have different favorites. And I have cheated on a little bit of it. So I'm looking at kind of what I love now. I do have one fave from 100 years ago. One of my favorite songs I'm listening to at the moment, and it's actually the artist as well as the album, is FKJ. He's got a song out with Tom Misch, and it's called Losing My Way. I've listened to FKJ all the time. He's a bit of a kind of looper come alternative. So that one's one of my favorites at the moment. Moving on from that, and this is the cheap one, there's a YouTube channel called Circle, and I love everything on it. So I'm not going to pick one. It's DJs doing stuff in the most bizarre places, like on the salt flats to in mountains and in hot balloons. And if you just want some background music, I would absolutely recommend that to anyone, but that's one of my main faves. Going back to probably I'm going to say 80s, but it could be even before, is a good old one called Street Life by Randy Crawford. That's one of my favorites. I will dance around the kitchen on that one. For lots of different reasons. Snow Patrol, Chasing Cars, beautiful lyrics, absolutely love that one.
Amazing song.
And then strangely, to throw into all that kind of stuff, if I ever hear Puccini's Nessun Dorma, which is obviously very classical, and I'm not a big classical nut, if anyone can sing that well, it's the one that just gives me goosebumps. So that's my top 5, even though one of them has probably got hundreds in it.
That's fine. See, I love that, Linda, because I never would have guessed that. I wouldn't have guessed any of those top 5 for you. So I love that.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Music, just so you know, music is my go-to. Music is my love. My one of my first the first publication actually that I owned here in Australia, which was back in the early 90s, was a street press music newspaper that was free. It was like Gig Guide. We used to put it out in Southeast Queensland. It was weekly. It was a newspaper. It was street press, and yeah, I had that for quite a few years. So that was my first publication. So my background is music. We used to sponsor, when Big Day Out first started, the Powderfinger Boys used to come into the office with their little $80 for their little 10x2 ad. Like, it was a cool time for music. Like, it was just the best time for music. Young guys running kind of clubs and pubs, and live music was awesome. The festival circuit was just starting. So yeah, not everybody knows that, but that was my first publication, which is where my first baby was born. It was called Rave, which was weird because it was before the word rave really meant stuff to people.
Interesting.
So it wasn't like that kind of genre, but it was that was my first newspaper here.
Wow, how cool is that?
Yeah, it is cool.
I love that. I mean, music is like, that's one of the things I love about our industry, is the fact that we can use music in our everyday kind of work as well. Like, I love it. I've got music tattoos all over me, so it's one thing which I love it.
It's interesting because we're in the process of, we haven't fine-tuned it all yet, but we will be launching it quite soon, and that is that through Mocha we've created a channel on Spotify, and it's specifically for the hair, beauty and barber industry. So what we're doing with that is we've started to build it so that if people in shops and salons want to be able to go to playlists to, you know, just get their staff revved up on a Tuesday or a Friday, or they want a bit of wind down music, or the beauty industry, for example, might want more kind of meditative stuff. And then what we're doing is that we're getting a lot of our winners to also share across their playlists through our awards, and then that way we can highlight them, and they've got really cool kind of names. And so yeah, just so that we're trying to continue at the moment this whole thing with Mocha being a bit of a hub of anything within those three industries. So music is a big part of that. So then instead of trying to create your own playlists, it'll probably be in the next month that we'll have it launched, but there'll be just one massive channel that anyone can go on and grab anything for whatever mood they're feeling while they're at work. So that's an exciting one. It's a fun one. It's just not a money one, but it's just a fun one.
No, I love that. That's awesome. I think you'll get a lot of good feedback from that, I think, because I think people do struggle for their playlists. So yeah. No, I reckon that's awesome. Well, going on the topic of Mocha, obviously I wanted you to do a little introduction about yourself first, Linda, for those that don't know you. I think a lot of our followers will know you, but for those that don't, I know when everybody goes, I hate talking about myself and stuff like this, but yeah, if you can best describe yourself and a bit of your background, that would be amazing.
Sure. Well, look, my background is publishing, you know, which has changed massively. Obviously, when I first got involved, which was in the UK originally, I worked for Reed Publishing back in the UK on trade and technical magazines that used to go out to Middle East, Far East and Africa. So they were business to business magazines. Then when I emigrated here, as I said, the first one, I worked for another music magazine for a little while, and then I launched my own, and that was my first one, which I've had sort of, you know, my own ever since then. I've gone through a few business magazines, a spiritual sort of new age magazine, when that was all kind of getting big. And then through that sort of, you know, I guess became quite sort of spiritual, did my Reiki training, and I've firewalked and all that kind of stuff. And
wow.
And then landed in the hair industry because someone I knew quite a long time ago was looking at launching something in the hair industry, and they didn't really know how to publish. So they knew the content, I knew how to publish. So I sort of helped them with that, and then had a few other publications, and then fell back into this industry when we launched Mocha about 17 years ago, I think it is now. Our first magazine was Hair Biz, and that was mainly because there were a few other magazines in that space, but they were dealing more with the creative and nobody was dealing with business. And I felt that was a big gap. We still absolutely embrace the creative side, obviously, especially through our awards and everything else. But the magazines were set up to, I guess, inform and inspire and educate, and also help people a little bit along the way with business information and knowledge, because I felt there was nothing really there. You know, we send our magazines out, and the ones that we get back are the returns, which are closures of salons and shops. And it's quite sad when you see how many come back. And a lot of that is because people, you know, unlike a lot of industries that, you know, if you're a tradie and, you know, you're a builder or whatever, then you might do your apprenticeship, but then you also have to do extra after that to sort of own your own business and get your license. Whereas with hair, especially, you know, you're qualified, you can open a salon, or anyone can open a salon. You don't have to be a hairdresser. So I think the lack of business knowledge needed a bit of help. So, you know, we were never going to be like a BRW or anything, but we just wanted to open people's eyes to a bit of business kind of stuff. And so the three magazines that we have, Hair Biz, which obviously goes to all hair salons, Beauty Biz goes to beauty salons, and Barber Shop goes to the barber ones. We did launch Barber, actually, funnily enough, 11 years ago, which a lot of people think it's not been around that long, but we kind of started it before the boom, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, people think of the barber industry as being huge, but it's more so because it's not that big. There's not a lot of barber shops out there, certainly in comparison to hair. But it's a a talked about industry, and it's a fun industry, and it's a loud industry. So they're quite vocal. So I think it makes people think that it can be a bit bigger. And I think certainly what's happened in recent years, obviously with changes, with bringing back in apprenticeships and all that kind of stuff, and making it a bit more tailored to what these young guys and girls want to do, that's definitely helped with the growth. So yeah, we started obviously with the magazines. We have 2 programs for young people. We have Hot Shots for Hair and Beauty Squad for Beauty, which is for younger people. That we run a program that is sponsored, where they come into a house for 3 days and get mentored. We do a photo shoot, we do all that kind of stuff. And then obviously a big side of our business, if not kind of, I guess not the biggest, but certainly has taken over our time a lot, is our awards. So we launched the ABIAs, which are the Australian Beauty Industry Awards, 12 years ago, and then came AHIA Business Awards for the hair industry. 3 years ago, we took over the space from Hair Expo, where we didn't want to take the actual Hair Expo itself, but we wanted to take over the awards, which we did after they closed. So AHIA then kind of extended across to creative. So we now have the AHIA Business and AHIA Creative, which are the ones that we've just announced finalists for on Monday, and the big gala night for that is in June. And then 2 years ago, we launched the AMBAs, which is the Modern Barber Awards. The first year we had to go online, obviously, because we were still having issues with COVID. And then last year was our first kind of in real life event, which was down in Melbourne, which, as I was saying to you before we started recording, was probably one of my favorite ones so far. It was cool. Yeah. The venue was just amazing. Entertainment was incredible. Everyone was dressed up. I was encouraged by, for our first one, the number of people that embraced it and entered it. And so, yeah, that's where we are at the moment. There's been lots of changes over the years, especially with publishing. When we first launched, we were print and print only. Now, in the last probably 5 years, we've had to embrace online, digital, social, email, everything, which is massive, because the landscape has absolutely changed when it comes to that. But yeah, it's from an awards point of view, it's a really important part, I believe, of the industry. It helps shape it. It brings new people into the industry. It shows people what they can do. Part of that is also in a way, I guess, of training, and it's something that we're really passionate about with the barbers, because they, having maybe some of them not been so involved in the competition circuit, we're trying to kind of encourage that, and also handhold them a little bit in terms of helping with, how to do shoots, what to do, instead of just the sort of stuff that you see on Instagram, which is just guys in capes in a chair kind of thing. So there's lots of plans yeah. for sure. Yeah, it's an interesting time. I think even just with you guys, you would see it with education, where everyone's had to rely on, virtual and online for such a long time. And now suddenly it's like we can see stuff in like real life and people's hands doing actual work, which is quite exciting again. So that's us in a nutshell.
Yeah. No, I love it. I think it's one thing which has definitely, I wouldn't say changed our students' mind, but I mean, even the photo shoot we did last year, which was only 1 day, was huge, because the students who were there were like, how cool is this for a start? And then to actually take some of our students to the awards, it was kind of like, okay, we had no idea this was part of the industry. I know I speak to Stacey about it all the time. You're right. It is. A lot of people just think you just work in a shop 9 till 9 and cut hair, and there's way more to it. So it's it's great. It's amazing. And I think we get a lot of competitive people in this industry as well. So the awards are a good thing.
I think that, the one thing that's really important is, like you said, it's just showing people what this industry can do. And I think especially, certainly in beauty as well that we deal with, but certainly in hair, a lot of people, and look, a lot of people that we talk about skill shortage and stuff all the time, a lot of people come into it. Not everybody, that the numbers of people that finish their apprenticeships is awful. But I think, with that skill shortage and bringing people in, it's all about showing where that career path can take them. So, whether you just want to remain as a stylist or a barber on the floor, that's absolutely fine. But if you want to go into management, if you want to own your own business, if you want to get into more sort of photographic session, editorial, going and working on the cruise ships, all those things, there's so many things that you can do with this career. And, when I look at the people that are doing that well, yes, initially you have to train. Sadly, I think the problem is that people forget that it is a trade. It is an apprenticeship trained career. And, means that you do have to learn how to do it. So wages are not necessarily going to be brilliant at the beginning, but it's no different to a chippy or a plumber, or you've got to learn your trade. And then once you've learned your trade, then you can absolutely do really, really well out of it, and it just apply yourself. So I think what we're trying to do, and certainly with the awards, is it's pretty easy to just take some shots in a salon and put them up on Instagram. And I'm not saying don't do that, because you absolutely do need to do that, because that's for consumers. But peer recognition is also really important. It makes you a bit of a commodity within the industry. It gives you opportunities where companies then look at you to be maybe ambassadors, or travel, or all those kind of doors that can open. And the only way that happens is if you get the trade to see you. So I think it's, there's two parts to me that I look at with our awards. One is the process of entering. The process itself and the way that we've set this up in terms of what you have to submit, the questions you have to answer. From a business perspective, it makes people almost kind of do a health check on their business every year. And from a creative point of view, it allows you to push the boundaries year on year and sort of, better, I guess, what you're doing and your skills. So the process is really important and fun as well, with obviously, putting your mood board together, getting your team together, however good or experienced that is, it's still a fun process. And then to get finalist status, and then hopefully to win, it's certainly another tool in the toolkit that you can promote as yourself, as an individual, as a business owner. Who wouldn't want to be able to say that they're the best barbershop or best hairdresser in Australia? Or, I think people forget how much that does. And the one thing that we do, which I know a lot of competitions don't, is that we put a huge emphasis on what we can get for our winners once they've won. So from a PR perspective, we contract a PR company, and I don't want people to just win a trophy and then put it on a shelf and it get dust. I want us to also help them with PR. Everyone gets personalized press releases. We introduce them to local media. The hits that we had last year on TV with the Today Show, we got Costa on the morning show, like all that stuff that we did. That's for me what it's about. It's about the follow-up, and kind of, if that shows people how they should put a press kit together and send stuff into media and how to deal with the media, that to me is really, really important, because it's then a follow through. It's not just about the win.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that was one I hadn't even seen. I hadn't even seen that part of it, because obviously we've entered awards in the past, and you're right, it's just a block of glass, and it's like, oh, brilliant. But then you look at it this year, like I know for well, like Stacey and Lino, for example, who we work with as an RTO, it was like, I seen Lino on the Gold Coast News, and I'm like,
yeah,
wow, how amazing is this? And then obviously Costa being on the telly. I spoke to Costa this morning, funny enough. So it's quite funny how that can then just take you to the next level. As you said, it's marketing at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, totally. And, whether you're working in a salon or a shop, or whether you own it, there's still, it's a bit like, if you can put that on a resume, that's pretty cool to be able to then,
100%.
look at other places. And I think, so that's kind of why with the barber ones, we've sort of mixed it. So we've mixed it to be, whereas with hair, we've got the creative ones and then we've got the business ones, purely because of the size of the industry, to be honest. But with the barber ones, we've got it mixed within that same, under that same umbrella. So there are categories there literally for everyone, whether you're a junior and you just want to put a photo shoot together and do that quite simplistically. You don't have to spend 20, 30, 40, $50,000 on a photo shoot. Some people obviously do in the hair industry once they get to that real top end. But, there are so many people out there that are incredible that are also trying to get a bit of a name for themselves. Like in the hair industry, there are not loads and loads of photographers that everybody knows. There are lots of photographers, but a lot don't put themselves out there. And hairdressers are always looking for new photographers as well as, makeup, styling and whatever. So there's really nothing wrong with, grabbing some people that together. I know that some of your guys even do their own photography. Putting something together like that it doesn't have to be, unreachable and ridiculously expensive. You can call people and go, look, I'm putting together a shoot. Do you want to come and do that with me? We're all going to get something out of it. We actually, this year, for the first time for the hair awards, the creative ones, we created a new category, which was called the BTS Dream Team. So for behind the scenes. And what that is basically is it enters a collection. They can also then enter that collection for their dream team. And that's not them. So the judges look at it from a photography, styling and makeup point of view. And it allows the unsung heroes, which quite often can make a shoot, also get some form of recognition, which we're really happy about that one. So it's really just about having a go. And even though you might not, final or even win on your first shot, it's kind of, the judges are still going to see everyone and everything, and they will, we get a lot of judges on board overseas as well as here. They'll start to see names. What we're about is profiling these people. So they'll see those names and then they might see them again next year and remember what they did the year before and know how they've improved. And, I think, and look, I look at the first magazine I ever put out and just think, how on earth did we do that? It just looks awful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's our first one, so I think not to be too hard on yourself and just have fun during the process, and just put it out there. There's a few categories definitely in the barber ones where you don't have to do written submission. It's just the photographic stuff. There's stuff there whether you love your freestyle, your classic. Obviously there's the team collection as well where you can use some shots. The two big ones, the Barber Business of the Year is obviously a big submission, and then the Modern Barber is submission and the photographic. But then I just think it's good for us to be able to look at all of those business side things as well as the photographic. So I'm really excited to see what happens this year. We've sort of did the first one last year. There seems to be quite a lot of interest on the site already, and we'll just see how we go. But I encourage everyone to have a look, and if anybody wants to reach out, we're really open, transparent. If anyone wants to give me a call, absolutely always welcome, just to sort of have a chat about how best to do it and what do the judges look for and all those kind of things. More than happy to help out with that.
You stole my next question, Linda.
Did I?
I was going to say, if you had to give 3 tips to somebody who's going to be entering, what would those tips be? Okay.
I think you've got to split it between, I guess, the two. So we've got photographic and then we've got business. If we look at the business ones and even the photographic when it comes to Modern Barber, the judges are looking for a point of difference. One of my tips would always be, if you're doing something that involves a written submission, the first thing that you see is an opening statement, and just by definition of what that's called, people tend to do that first and then they carry on and they fill out the rest of it. My tip would be, don't do that first, do that last. Complete all the information first and then look at what you've written and then go back to your opening statement and write that basically based on what you've done. The opening statement is kind of like the bait. It's the elevator pitch. It's, imagine jumping into an elevator with somebody that you want to impress and you've got 10 floors to do it. That's what that section is. So you don't give away everything. If you were to write something in there, for example, let's say you were a salon owner and you were going for barber business, you might say that you increased sales by X amount percent in retail and service, and that's all you say, because a judge would then read that and go, oh my God, how did they do that? And they want to read more. They are human, so they, think of them as you. I would say with photographic, again, quality of the images. I hate to say it, but I will, and that is quality of the models that you use. You're not in the shop. This is actually a photographic competition, and I'm not saying that they have to be the best, most beautiful, good-looking people, but have a reason as to what that look is going to be about. So if you're going for that real kind of maybe hard look, then look at the guys or girls that can do that. If you're going for that more androgynous look, then go for that. But keep that theme, work out what your theme is and stay true to that theme, so that each individual photo can stand up in its own right as an amazing photo, but also when the judges look at it as a collection, it is clearly a collection and there's a story that the photos are giving the narrative to. I would say also use the site. So the site that we use is a thing called Award Force, and when you're putting your entry in, there is formatting available. I would absolutely use the formatting. So you can, it's not huge. You can do bold, italics, links, all those kind of things. With your bold and your italics and your bullet points and whatever, I would definitely use it, because if you think of these judges that are reading and looking at loads and loads and loads of entries, if it's pleasing to the eye, it's a bit like, picking up a book that is just text, no paragraphs, returns, no headlines. It's just too much. So there's a button at the bottom of the entry page that you're completing, and a lot of people don't use it, but it's called preview. If you click on that preview, you'll see what the judges see. So you'll see how your submission looks. And that way you can think, okay, that's just a whopping great big block of text. I need to space that out a little bit, and I need to make that bold, or, it's just the content is probably 80 to 90% of what they're going to look at. But 10% of that may be, if they've got two people that they really think are quite high and they have to choose one as a winner, there needs to be a point of difference. There needs to be something that just tips it over the edge. And that could come down to just how pleasing it was to read. And, if there's one thing in there that you can think of that you do that allows you to say that you should be a winner, because that is really something that makes you have that point of difference.
Very interesting. I'm only writing down these notes just for myself. That's why I asked that question. That.
Yeah.
So no, that's very interesting. I think it's a very good insight as well into it for people, because I know one thing, especially in the barber industry, not a lot of people have entered awards before. Like, I know I was even speaking to Stacey about it. She was like, I didn't even know where to start, kind of thing. So yeah, especially with other students as well.
Yeah. We do. I mean, we are trying to start doing a bit more, I guess, sort of education on it. At some point, some of the sponsors we work with quite closely, where we will give them information so they can then go out and talk to the guys in the shops and salons that, may want a bit of help with it. So we're trying to do sort of more of that, and then looking at maybe even doing some Instagram lives on Mocha Barber and Mocha Hair, just to give a few kind of top tips, and give a bit more help, because it can be quite daunting. But at the end of the day, we do have a feedback round after the awards have been announced. So that'll be it's in November, so probably around mid-November, people can log back into the site, and we encourage the judges to put comments for feedback. Sadly, we guarantee, because they have so much to do, they don't necessarily do it on everything, but some of them do, and it may only be 2 or 3 or 4 comments, but it's worth going back in and having a look at that, because some of them will be I try to say to them, don't just put good submission. Like I want stuff that's going to help people, so if there's something that they can put in there that will help people for future, which is criticism, I want them to do that, because that will be good for people to learn from.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was kind of like a big one for us last year, was actually getting feedback, because like what you said, it's the first thing you go, oh, why didn't I win? Like, I wonder why I didn't win, you know what I mean? And that was a really good one for our students to see as well, who had entered. They were kind of like, okay.
Yes. And I will say too, I do get people that often call me afterwards and say, why didn't I, what did I do? Categorically, nobody does anything wrong. It's impossible to do this wrong. But what you sometimes have to realize is that sometimes in that 12-month period, someone's just done something a bit better. And so if you can look at, the information that you give, a classic thing is, if you're talking about a salon business, then you would always be talking about that in the third party, because you are talking about the business. Whereas if you're talking to best business director owner, then it would be in the first person, because it's an I've done this, I've done that. A lot of people forget that. And so, there's just sort of, and look, also bear in mind that with our judges, we don't just have judges from this industry, we have judges from everywhere. So as an example of that, the barbershop design of the year and all of our salon design ones, we have 2 architects that judge that, as well as people from within the industry that have nothing to do with this industry, that look at it purely from a building design architectural point of view. So don't get
cool.
on who's judging, and just as long as you do the best thing that you can do. For me, this is also about a process of encouraging everyone to really just sort of put themselves out there and do it. And like I said, we're not trying to restrict people, we're trying to encourage people to do this. So the more we can help people to enter with their best entry, the more we are absolutely happy to do.
No, I reckon that's awesome. I've got 2 more questions for you, Linda, I promise, and then I'll let you go, because I know it's getting late. So I'm like, all right, okay, cool. So one of my questions, where do you see, I know it's hard to just pinpoint barbering, but let's just go the overall industries in 5 years' time.
Oh God, that's a big one. I guess. Look, I think there's changes coming. I work quite closely with Sandy Chong with the AHC, and have done since it started. I think that, everyone is trying to do the best they can to bring more people into the industry. There's always rules and regulations that are going to maybe hinder that. I would like, if I had a wish, it would be to obviously make sure that more people come into the industry. I think part of that would start with education, even from schools. You still have teachers that say, oh, if you can't think of anything else, be a hairdresser. I think that's appalling.
Yeah.
And that has to change. I'm hoping that will change. It's still kind of, there. We look at immigration with people coming into the country. There was years ago where it was not done well, but now it's kind of being done well again, where people, with the sponsorships have been reinstated to be able to do that. I think if I would love to see, this is turning more into what I would like to see as opposed to what it's going to be, but
that's good.
There's still, and always has been, this issue of like state by state. We've got issues with state by state in government, and we've got the same in a lot of industries, and that's certainly in the hair industry, where certain things in one state do not apply in another state. And I would love to see that across the board being the same, so that we are one country with one apprenticeship, one rules, one everything. I don't know whether that will ever happen. I think just, I think the good side of it is, whether we have recessions or whether we have, GFCs or even pandemics, the industry that still sort of thrives is the hair and beauty industry. They call it the lipstick effect. It's basically where people will still spend money. on things that make them feel good. And whereas a lot of industries, mine included, that there are things, you know, being taken over with online digital. I mean, this whole GPT chat thing is just mind-boggling, which will replace a lot. The one thing that you can't replace is somebody actually cutting your hair. I mean, you know, we are here to stay. So that's why it frustrates me when I think of schools that kind of do the whole play it down, because it's, you know, there are a lot of industries that there is no guarantee for job security, especially with GPT and AI and all that stuff coming through. So I think it's got a great career path. You know, I think that it's getting cleaned up, and hopefully it will remain. But I can't see it going anywhere in the near or distant future.
I know, fingers crossed, right? Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
All right, and my last one, I promise. What's next for Mocha and Linda?
Well, I took on a general manager, Jared Stedman, in August, who is amazing. Part of that for me personally is, well, the original idea was to allow me to step back a little bit. That's actually not happening because he's getting me to do all these new things, which is fantastic. I'm not in a rush to kind of, you know, not do what I'm doing, but I do want to take a bit of time out. My kids are all kind of getting older. I've now got 3 grandchildren as well, so I spend time with that. So I just want to have a bit more, you know, as opposed to the work-life balance, probably sway it a little bit more to the side of things. So that's, you know, taking on somebody else in that general manager role, which I've never done before, is allowing me to do that, which is fantastic. I don't see things changing massively. I think that, you know, even though print people question, when it comes to business and when it comes to our industry, people are still very tactile. They still want to touch it, feel it, read it, smell it. So the magazines won't go anywhere for now. You know, if we didn't have to print and post, it would save us a fortune. But we do telemarketing surveys, strangely enough, every 6 to 12 months, and they all still want it. So that won't change. But I would say that, you know, I would say that we would still move more, as we are doing, into that digital kind of area. We're doing a lot more than we've ever done before with social. Jared's brought a huge sort of new side into the business, which is with all of the reels, photography, videography, covering events, all that kind of thing. And we just want Mocha to be, I guess, a hub. So we're working on quite a lot of things on our website at the moment, where my dream would be that when anybody thinks about anything to do with the hair, beauty or barber industry, they think of Mocha, and they can go onto our website and find out information, whether it be, you know, how to read a magazine, how to enter an award, if they want to find who the, you know, technical educator is for a certain company, that will be on there, be able to be the Spotify channel, you know, be able to book somebody to come and do a salon walkthrough for a reel on video, all of that. I just want us to be that kind of hub where we can offer all of those services, and not necessarily from us, but to be able to be a conduit to all of those different kind of individuals, whether it's education, you know, staffing, whatever. So that's kind of on the plan, to build a gigantic website that has all that on there.
I love it. Well, I think one thing, Linda, the industry needs it. Like it's something which it's crying out for, as far as I'm concerned, because everyone I speak to seems to be on the same kind of path. We're all saying the same thing. So hopefully we can work our way towards that. I reckon that's a great idea. I reckon it's awesome.
Yeah, well, that's the plan.
I love it. Well, superb. Thank you so much for your time, Linda. Honestly, it's been amazing. I'm glad our listeners and followers have managed to get a bit of an insight into the amazing Mocha Group as well. So I'm looking forward to the next couple of months with our students entering, and also ourselves. And we can't wait. It's going to be awesome. Yeah,
so let me just finish off by reminding everyone that for the Barber Awards, which are open for entry, you can go onto our website, www.mochagroup.com.au. Just go to the barber page and you'll find all the links to get through to the entry site, and also be able to download the all the information kit. So the general entry deadline for that is not till the 21st of August, but I would really highly recommend people start thinking about a bit of a plan in terms of downloading that kit so that they know what they have to do, and then start planning for shoots and all that kind of thing. We do have our AHIA business ones also open, but they will close off 10th of July, and they're obviously more the business side than the creative, but there are still some categories in there for the younger folk in terms of sort of team members and that kind of thing. So yeah, I would just have a look at that. Thank you for inviting me to have a chat, and like I said, our contact details on the site as well. If you wants to reach out and ask us anything in terms of awards or tips or tricks or whatever, then I'm absolutely more than happy to take call.
I love it, and we'll also chuck those links in as well to Spotify, right, YouTube, and everything as well, so it'll make it a bit easier for everybody to click onto. So yeah, no, that's brilliant.
Fantastic. Okay, great. Thank you, and good luck to everybody if you're entering. Yeah, I look forward to working more with you guys as well at the Barber Academy, who are doing an incredible job.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Linda.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.